Hello, everyone, and welcome to this week's episode of The Bright Side of Life. I am your host, Melissa Bright, and today I have a guest that has already been on the show once, but I wanted to bring him back for a very important month and topic. Today, I am talking to Sam Eaton. Sam was on my show back in December of 2020 to share his story of attempting suicide and what he did to start winning his life back. You can actually go check out that episode as it's linked in the description of the show notes. But today we are talking to Sam because September is Suicide Prevention Month, and we're going to be talking about healthy habits we can create to support our mental health and also ways to improve self-talk. Sam, welcome back to the Bright Side of Life. How are you today?
So wonderful. Thanks for having me back.
Yes, I'm so excited. You're my second guest that I've ever had on the show twice, so you should feel special.
So honored, and congrats on cracking the top 100 on podcasts. Incredible.
Thank you. Yes, it's a great feeling. It's a great feeling. So before we get into it, literally from the time in December of 2020 of that was the interview, but I knew you before and followed you on social media. You had something like 7,000 followers at that point. Maybe 8. Now you have 128,000 just on Instagram. I don't even know how many you have on TikTok, but you've been up to so much. So what have you been up to these days?
Oh, that's a great question. The truth is most days I wake up and I have no clue what I'm doing. Ultimately, though, when I attempted suicide and through coming up on 20 years of battling with mental health, nobody talked about it, especially growing up. Nobody talked about what depression feels like, what suicidal thoughts feel like. And even now, I feel like our suicide prevention messaging, so much of it honestly didn't help me at all. And that's something I hear from people constantly. And I haven't talked about this a lot because I don't ever want to discourage someone from suicide prevention, from talking about suicide.
Right.
But from what I've noticed, especially coming up on Suicide Prevention Month, you're going to see the hotline posted 100 times. Mm-hmm. Celebrities will post, call this number, but there's no practical steps. Like literally, it's all just don't kill yourself. Right. Instead of how? Don't just tell me to stay, but tell me how to stay and how to take my life back. What are the things I should be trying? And so over the last year and a half, I have really focused on that. I've really focused on learning myself and kind of using myself as an experiment. That's what sets me apart, is that I have battled this. I don't have a degree in mental health. I just have tried all of this stuff on myself. So I really have switched all of my content to trying to be more talking about those things, the exercise that I do, the self-talk, different little tips and tricks that I've learned along the way. And the response has been really, really positive.
Yeah. I love that you said that you are an experiment yourself, because I feel like that's the same for me. We only have our story and our experience that we can go off of. And for me, sometimes I'm like, maybe nobody would ever benefit from this story, but then somebody has to. Somebody else out there has lost both of their parents, or somebody like you who has attempted suicide and are just trying to figure out life and whatever it is. And it's so important. And you are one of the very few that I have talked to and I see talking about different things that are important. Like, okay, great that there's a number. Great, there's a number that you can text, but we need to go a step more than that, because like you said, everybody knows the number or they can find it. But some people might not even know what this means. Like, why am I having this? Why do I feel this way? This isn't, and they need more help than they're getting.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, our world has a massive authenticity crisis. So 1 in 5 people will battle mental illness in their life. 1 in 6 will battle depression, and sometimes incidental depression, which might just mean when you lose a parent, you might have a low period of 6 months to a year, and you might be able to pull yourself out of that. A lot of people can. They don't need to go to therapy, but a lot of people do need extra help. But that's 1 in 6 of us. 1 in 5 And I would bet 99% of those people have never posted about it.
Right.
Never shared. When do you ever see someone posting, I'm having a low day, anything like that? It's so rare. We just project. And
Right.
I hope that that's the conversation we start to change. We start to be honest and open so that people like you and me feel like it's okay to be a work in progress. Right? It's like,
Yeah.
there is no magic cure and everyone has mental health. That's the other thing is you don't have to have mental illness. We're all working on our mental health. Our emotions ebb and flow, and that's okay. And let's talk about how to manage that and how to put those habits into place to figure it out, to try to enjoy our lives while we can.
Yeah, I love that. So before we get on to talking about the habits and everything like that, Sam has done like a lot in all of his life, but you're an author of one of the best-selling books called Recklessly Alive. And you're also a motivational speaker and have done many, many speaking gigs. Former teacher.
Yeah.
I mean, you have done a lot of stuff, and you are really, really passionate about helping people with their mental health. And I just think it's amazing for everything that you are doing. So let's get into how habits can help with our mental health.
Absolutely. So I recently heard this thought that I cannot get out of my head, and that it's habits actually put your mind at ease because it lets you know what's coming up in your day and what's coming up in your life. And it keeps your brain out of that fight or flight moment when you know what's coming, when there's structure to your day. That's why your brain likes structure. So, I mean, one of the most important habits I've ever adopted is I wake up and I go for a walk almost every day. In Minnesota, when it's -30, I might just go to a treadmill. But I cannot tell you that just that simple habit has improved my life, maybe more than anything other than regularly exercising and lifting weights. Getting up most days and moving my body, whatever it is about my body chemistry, I usually wake up and my brain is sad or anxious, and just moving, listening to music, listening to great podcasts like your podcast, it just does something for me. And I was so against it. Like I'm like, whatever, it's dumb. I don't need to walk. That's what old ladies do. But when I say like I'm the experiment, like that truthfully is one of the most important ones for me. The exercise and the movement, water, all those kind of physical sleep, those kind of 3 physical habits maybe are more important than anything else that I do.
Yeah. Something that's so important. I feel like each listener could take something away from the sentences, plural, that you just said. Some people might have heard, okay, these are the things I could do to support my mental health. I can go for a walk. I can become physical. I can do whatever. The part that I heard and the part that I feel is so important is in 2020, that's when I got super depressed. And I was like, what is wrong with me besides the world? Like, what is personally going on with me? What is wrong? And for a long time, I did not understand it. Then I finally realized I was no longer in a routine. We were just kind of flying by the seat of our pants. I was already working from home as a travel agent. Any structure that I had went straight out of the window. I wasn't waking up, going to my desk and booking trips and calling clients. I stopped working out, which was a big part of all of my 2019. And then I'm like, oh, that's what the hell happened. I had no structure for like 6 or 7 months. So the point I'm trying to make is maybe if there's a listener out there thinking like, oh, I don't have any of these habits, I don't have any of these routines, maybe that's what, because sometimes you can wake up and just look around and be like, what am I going to do today? And that's when your mind starts ruminating. And you're so right. Taking the action, whatever that is, can stop that.
I think one of the hardest parts about being an adult, I mean, I'm 34 now, but I feel like we just kind of get in these ruts where we don't do things that make us feel alive. At the end of the day, it's like like when I was teaching, I would get up at 6 a.m. I would work till 5 p.m. In the winter, it's dark. I would maybe go to the gym, and then I would eat a kind of a boring dinner and watch TV. And I'm wondering why I'm sad. And I'm wondering why, like, I'm not doing anything that's making my life better or working towards anything. I think all of us, whether you struggle with mental health or not, we kind of fall into these comfortable routines. But in that comfort, we're unhappy, right? We don't like what we're doing. So my number one tip out of everything is do one thing every single day that you don't feel like doing. And that's for everybody. Everybody has mental health, because it feels so overwhelming when you don't have those habits in place. Like, right, how am I going to drink water and do this? And so we fall into these traps of the New Year's resolution of like, okay, tomorrow I'm going to wake up and everything's going to be perfect. But you can also just pick one, right? It's like, your house is a total mess. Just do one thing every day. Set a timer for 10 minutes or clean one closet. Build that momentum. That is maybe the most important thing about pulling yourself out of that, is just one thing, build that momentum. Start those habits in a very small way.
Yeah. I think in however many episodes, I always say that all of this sounds great in theory, but if you don't take the action. And I have been very transparent over the past couple episodes that I've been in this weird space, and I've been struggling with my energy, and that's put me in a weird, like, when your physical is like sometimes compromised, that obviously can make you depressed, and then it's just like a downward spiral from there. So I have been trying to like, okay, what can I do to get myself out of this funk? And so far my answer has been, you got to get up and you got to start taking action. And just, even if your brain is like, I don't want to freaking do this, you have to. And that's what I've been doing. That's exactly what I have been doing, is doing. I don't want to say that I don't want to do it. It's just sometimes your brain is so powerful that even sometimes the things that you do enjoy, you don't want to do them.
Absolutely. I mean, it is kind of like, it's a bit of a mind game, like, right? You got to kind of just push through your brain. You can't believe everything you think. Just get yourself to the gym, It's like, yes, of course you don't want to go, just get there. And if you do something, it's better than nothing, and build those habits.
Yeah. And you said you can't believe everything you think. That is one of the biggest ones, because forever, I don't want to say forever, but like the past 2 years, I've been on this healing journey, and I was able to like not listen to those thoughts of lack of self-worth and all this stuff that I was taught as a little girl and whatever. And then all of a sudden, this like past 2 months, I'm like, why can I not shut these thoughts down? Like, what is happening? Trying to do all the tools. It's just been a very, very interesting thing, but it is a fact that every thought in our brain does not mean truth. I know you talk a lot about, we so often ruminate on the past, or we worry about the future. And that's where I've told myself so many times yesterday, Melissa, I am just going to literally think about where I am in this present moment right now, mindfulness. Like, that's what I have to do to be able to get through whatever it is. Can you speak a little bit, because I know you like to talk about the brain and not believing everything you think, and how that goes with inner critic, self-talk.
Yeah, I do love to talk about this, only because I am my own worst enemy constantly. Like, I feel like I've spent my whole life just beating myself up.
Right.
Finally, a few years ago, I kind of hit this point, and I wrote about it in my book, but I was like, I cannot spend the next 30 years hating myself. So there's a few things that go into that for me for self-talk. Number one, ultimately, I do not beat myself up for things I can't control or can't change. So for example, my voice, I always, in high school, I was bullied a little bit because I had a higher voice. I cannot change that. So why would I let my brain attack me for that, or height, or things like that I have no control over? Those things are off the table. Like, I just shut my brain down on things like that. Number two is you have to actively fight back against those things. And it's tiring. It's hard work, but you can do it. That's the piece, is so many people, and I get these comments constantly on my social media, they talk in absolutes, and you got to shut those absolutes down. I will never be happy. I will never be in shape. That will never, must be nice. It's great for you. That will never be my life. You've already told your brain, I'm not going to do it. It's not happening. I'm a failure. So then why do you expect that you're not making progress in your life when you've just accepted that this is never going to be true? So the practical way to fight that is to use the words yet or but. So like when your brain, you don't have to lie to yourself like, oh, I'm a supermodel. Like I'm smart enough to know that I am not going to be walking a runway anytime soon. And I'm okay with that. So I'm not going to say that to myself. But if I say, I don't look the way I want to look yet, right? Like I don't have the muscles, but I lifted 2 times this week. So using that sort of framework, it's hard work, but it does. Your brain is malleable and it believes what you tell it. So the more that you say that, the more that those things start to get easier and you don't wake up every day feeling stuck and pointless.
Yeah. I just talked to, oh my gosh, do you know who Dr. Kristen Neff is?
I don't.
Okay. Well, she's like the pioneer researcher on self-compassion.
Cool.
She's been doing research for like the last 20 years on self-compassion. And I just interviewed her last week for a summit that I'm doing around like your best year of your life or whatever in self-care. And something that I needed to remember, because so much of this we've heard 1,000 times before. You guys have probably heard so much of what Sam's already saying, but sometimes we just need that simple reminder. And she said that beating yourself up is never going to get you out of a bad mood or out of where you like. That is the most unproductive thing you could do. Beating yourself up is not going to get you in a good mood, like, or get you like, I don't know if it's like the like trainer mentality of like, you can do it, give me 10 more or what, but like you're being mean to yourself. It's like that, it's not going to work. So why even do that? If I would say, Sam, if you're just going to be mean to yourself, that's not going to work. And I know that is so much easier said than done because we are both like extremely critical about whatever it is that we have to be critical about.
Absolutely.
But being mean is you're not going to get anywhere.
And so the practical ways to work on that is putting positive messages somewhere or creating a few things to read every day or like writing down a few positive affirmations. Like that gets a little bit woo woo for me sometimes. Like you can accomplish everything you say, but it's feeding your brain positive things and then choosing the people that you surround yourself maybe is the most important part in this whole conversation, right? We've all heard you're becoming like the 5 people you spend the most time with. Right. So if you have critical voices in your life, that does become internalized and you have to fight back against that a little bit. And it maybe might lead to some uncomfortable conversations with a spouse or a friend that you need them to be more supportive. But truthfully, a lot of that changed when I joined CrossFit. This like insane, if listeners don't know what it is, it's this insane, I don't know, lift weights, throw things around, your body hurts all the time. It's like 2 years of that. But my self-talk improved so much because they're small classes of 10-ish, and you have a coach who tells you every single day, you can do this, do 5 more, keep going. And over time, now that I don't do CrossFit anymore, I still have their voices in my head. Sam, you can do this, like, right? Or adjust your elbows. So what you decide to put into your head and the positive things that you put into your head, like listening to a podcast every day, listening to positive things is also a really easy and practical way to work on that too.
Yeah, it's huge. And the bigger message is getting yourself to do that. Because sometimes, like, I'm gonna admit it. Like, that's where I have been. I'm like, I look at my journal and I'm like, I don't want to reflect right now. I've been sad, I guess is the biggest word, or really critical of myself. And I'm like, I don't want to look at the dark holes right now of where I am. But then again, I do, because I'm trying to like place where this is coming from. And sometimes that can be scary of like, why am I feeling this way?
Opening up that can. It's like, what's going to pop out?
Exactly. And sometimes I don't want to know. But something else I heard really important the other day of somebody else that I was interviewing is when we ask ourselves why, that just gives us another reason to hold on to a story that
Mhm.
we don't need to hold on to.
Mhm.
Like, just to make it simple, why am I sad? Well, my mom and dad died. Okay, well, that is true. Or they abandoned me. Like, I'm sad because my parents abandoned me, but yet that's not true. Like, what it makes you hold on to a story instead of saying, well, what can I do to make this situation? What can I learn from this? What do I do now? So on and so forth. And I am usually always asking myself why. And I'm like, maybe I need to not. We know why, Melissa.
It's like when you were talking, I was thinking like we also sometimes just need tough love to ourselves, right? It's like
Ugh,
sometimes self-love and self-compassion is I don't feel like doing this, but I need to, right?
right.
I know journaling will help me, and sometimes my brain doesn't want to do the things that will help. And so maybe that's an accountability partner.
Yep.
Maybe it's just a different way of journaling. Maybe you're just going to type it instead or speak it. Maybe you speak it into your phone. Maybe it's just brainstorming how to tweak that habit. But if you have something that works and you know it's going to work, whew, it's why is it so complicated?
I know. I know. You know, for me, one of the biggest things when I get sad is social media really does mess with me. I'll start seeing all the successful people that I start getting in my head about. Like whatever I'm feeling insecure about,
Mm,
that is magnitude on social media 10 times more. And I'm like, I should be doing this. I've told this 1,000 times, like, don't compare yourself to other
mm,
people. It's the thief of joy, and it really freaking is. It like sucks the joy out of you. Um, but I won't be on social media a lot if I'm like in my certain moods. But then there's like people like you and normally me that are like, you all you want to do is like help people. And I feel like your mission is so important because just your story. Your story is so important because everybody can look at somebody and say, "Well, yeah, that's you." And it's like not that we're not special, but it's like I'm this person. I don't come from any kind of massive wealth or this to say like, "Oh, I was able to just pull these strings or whatever."
mm.
We just have normal stories that we want people to relate with to help them and say, "No, but this is me." Does that make sense? I'm not trying to minimize your story. I'm trying to say, like, no, but we are the normal people trying to tell you it's okay.
And I truly believe that that's what people need. They just need real stories of real people who are just in the thick of it, like just
Hmm.
trying, like who are just, yeah, I'm a mental health creator and I struggle with mental health, and that's okay. That doesn't make me a fraud. In fact, that makes me more relatable. That makes me
Exactly.
more endearing. And when I see someone who is vulnerable and true about their struggles, doesn't matter what it is, eating
Hmm.
disorder, addiction, any of those things that get in the way of us feeling fully and recklessly alive, I am
Yeah.
drawn to them. I am pulled to them. I mean, when you share about the grief of your losing your parents and your family, like I am drawn to you and I feel
Hmm.
this connection with you, and I feel more likely to be vulnerable myself. And that's
Right.
what this world needs, is all of us to be strong enough to be like, yeah, life,
Right.
life's just rough sometimes, and
Yep.
we keep trying.
Yeah. That's where I have been for so long. I just didn't realize it because that's how the podcast started happening is because I've always been able to be vulnerable with people. Like I've never had this like I basically had nothing to brag about. I'm like, I don't come from money. I had my daughter when I was 16. I didn't graduate college, but there is something that I am deeply, deeply empathetic with people. And I am all about making people feel comfortable. I don't want them to feel alone or left out. And that literally was like my superpower. So if somebody was struggling with something, I immediately opened up and said, that's okay. Cause I feel this way or I've been here. And that immediately connected us instead of me being like, I don't know what you're talking about. I don't experience that. Bullshit.
Or, just cheer up. Just try harder. Why are you
Right.
sad? You have nothing to be sad about.
Mm.
But you are so good about it. And I'm curious, I have a question for you. Have you found through the podcast that has helped your healing journey at all?
Being vulnerable?
Being open, using it for a purpose?
Oh, 100%. I try to open up as much as I possibly can about situations. I mean, I've opened up about like my cannabis induced psychosis that I had one time and checked myself into a hospital. My house being messy. I've shared about like the way I look, like if I have weight issues or anything. I just try to be relatable to people because this is the shit that people are struggling with daily, not just once in their life and then it's over. Like the grief of losing my mom. Yes, it was 10 years ago, but it can affect me daily in some capacity. So it helps me also feel more like myself. And I've had people reach out to me and say, thank you for opening up about this because it gives me either a voice, it makes me feel normal, it doesn't make me feel so alone, whatever it is. And so that's why I say it every time on social media when I share a post. I will never stop sharing my vulnerabilities with people because there are people out there that won't share because they're scared. And I get it. We don't always need everybody to share stuff. But if my story can help you or make you feel less alone and be like, oh, God, thank God I'm not the only one feeling that way, then I feel I've done my job. And I'm happy about that.
100%. Me too. And that's why I asked the question. I wondered if it was true for you, because that's another idea of a habit for anyone who's listening. Finding a purpose for your pain, using the struggle you've been through to help other people is so healing to me. I kind of talk about like, if there's a way you can reach back into your story and help someone who's where you were, like that's my sole driver in what I do is I'm reaching back to 23-year-old Sam who was planning to end his life, who had no support like this, nobody open and talking about it. And I'm trying to lift up and help that Sam. And by posting to social media almost every day, it also forces me to reflect and learn about mental health. So if there's anybody out there who's thinking, I've kind of wanted to start creating, but who's going to care? Who's going to talk about it? It takes work. But truthfully, it's another habit of mine that it helps me every day just as much as it helps other people.
Yeah. And you're getting so much feedback that you need. I mean, you have gained so much knowledge in this community of like suicide prevention and wanting to help people. Some of the stuff that you said on our very first episode was like, I did not even consider that or think of that. When you say that, people think that people just want to die, and that's not what it is. People just want the pain to stop. They don't see a solution. And it's like these conversations need to be had so people understand. And you are getting so much feedback from your comments and learning. I mean, you post stuff all the time that I'm just like, oh my gosh, this is so helpful for people to look at it in a different light and in a different way,
That's super kind. Thank you. I try, and I miss too, right? It's like, it's not like every post hits great. Well, like anything else, you just try and you figure it out and you get better at it over time. I mean, I've posted almost every day on Instagram for, I don't know, almost 3 years. And 2 of that I had, I don't know, 7,000 or less. So it's like you put in a lot of work, but I also grew and got to be a better person too. So it's both. But I think purpose is a huge part of this mental health conversation. And if you feel kind of lost or like maybe my life has no purpose, getting involved, volunteering, there's tons of research about how that too can improve your mental health.
Yeah. Serving is one of the biggest ways. And so just like you were saying earlier, turning your pain into a purpose, it doesn't have to be. I saw something the other day. Of course, like anything we say can always be turned around, and people will say, "You don't need to turn your pain into a purpose, okay?" And it's like, okay, you're right, you don't. But if you feel that that's how you could best serve people, and mine, I know, is from me struggling with either losing my parents, my self-worth issues, inner critic. If I know that I think that this could help somebody, then yes, I'm going to turn this into my purpose. But I say all this because when you feel like you can't help yourself at a moment, that is when you should say, what can I do to help somebody else? That could be the smallest thing. Smiling at somebody at a grocery store that might look sad. The smallest act of kindness, that is serving. It doesn't have to be, I'm going to go on a 10-year mission to Cambodia.
Right.
And they make the small, because it can make, truthfully, the biggest difference.
And it does release feel good chemicals in our brain. Like in some level, it makes us feel good to help someone else. It also gives us perspective of what other people are going through, that we're not the only ones struggling.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Connects us, right? Like a lot of mental illness, we feel isolated, we feel disconnected, we feel more connected to people when we have them. So yes, of course, you don't have to turn your pain into purpose, but for me, I think our scars are our superpower, right? It's like what has hurt us the most is one of our best places to be able to help others. Now, I did a ton of therapy. I've been working on trying to figure out how to tell this story for, I don't know, almost 10 years. So like, it's not like it was like, oh, and now I have the ability to tell everyone about my worst days. It's been a long journey, but I think it's a part of this that's a lot of times we don't talk about. We just ignore focusing on other people and maybe thinking a little bit less of me and what's making me sad.
Yeah. What do you feel like? Okay, so you're 34 now, just turned 34.
Yeah.
You're a Leo like me, right?
I am.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
What do you feel? I don't have this question prepared. What do you feel is the biggest thing that you've learned about yourself in the last 10 years? Told you I'm going to put you on the spot.
It is, truthfully, it is that question that came to me as I was planning to take my own life. It's, have you really given life everything you've got? Have you really gone for it and gone for the big things that you want to go for? It might not work out. Example of this is when I was 25, I had never run a 5K and I decided to run a marathon, which is a terrible decision. I did run a 5K and then I ran a 10-mile race, and I spent a year building up to that. It was awful. It was 4 hours and 40 of the worst minutes of my life. It was so painful. I wanted to quit the whole time. I was in pain for weeks after, but there is something when you do something like that, when you decide to start something, you go after something like that and you do it, the mindset shift that gave me of, Sam, you can do really hard things. You can, if you try, and yes, it's a messy process. I missed runs, whatever. I was never an athlete. My self-talk through that whole thing was awful. My dad used to say, you run like a girl, your sister's the athlete, you're the smart one. And I had this awful picture of myself as I can't be athletic. That was all me. But I needed to prove to myself that I could do something big. And I just went for it. And the book was the same way. It was like, it took me 7 years to get that book published. I wrote 3 full versions of it. I don't give myself enough credit for how hard I had to fight to get that book out. I published a book, whatever. I should write book 2. But it's like, truthfully, that is it. It's like, pick the things you want out of life. We don't have time to do everything. Pick a couple. If you don't like the way you look, okay, pick something and then just try it. And yeah, maybe you fail, but at least you're failing in a spectacular way. And you're failing because you're in the fight and you're in the arena and you're trying to make the life that you want. Because like we said before, even if you get it, even if you build this multi-million-dollar company, it's not going to be the answer unless you are taking care of you and you are going for it.
Yeah. That is what did you said what your biggest lesson was? I literally just forgot. Oh, going like after things in life and like, have you given it your best shot? That is such like an aha moment, because that's exactly what happened to me in 2020 when this, like, I was a travel agent. Okay, it was fine and I enjoyed it, but that's not really what brought me joy. And once I finally realized, like, what I really enjoy is having these conversations with people that could potentially help other people, and I just went for it, I was so happy I did, to see. And my life has changed a lot in 2 years. You know, I get to talk to people email me to be on my podcast. Like, that is something that I created, that if I wouldn't have given myself a chance, I'd be doing whatever it is, you know? And that's what you said, is maybe whatever you try does suck and you don't enjoy it or you're not good at it. But you can say that you, one, did it, and two, you now know. And I'm sure as shit guarantee you that you have learned something from it, even if it's as simple as, I learned that I actually don't like running marathons.
True. Can confirm. Not a fan.
Didn't you just do a triathlon?
Yeah. That was this year's version of that.
And how that, did you like that one?
I didn't even own a bike when I signed up for this triathlon. First, it was a sprint, so it was about an hour and 45 minutes total. But yeah, swim. I was fairly certain I was going to drown for about 10 of the 12 weeks I was getting ready for it. You had to swim 800 meters, so like a 20-minute swim or something for me. I could not do 50 when I started. But guess what? I did it. And when it was done, the boost of life that it gave me just spiraled and like rippled out into the rest of my life. And I see that podcast being kind of some of that for you. It's like, it was kind of the starting point, and I'm sure it wasn't like massively successful right away.
Right.
It took some time to figure out, but seeing your trajectory from when you started is incredible. And we don't give ourselves enough credit for the things that we do. And I hope people listening, I believe everybody has something in their heart that they want to do. I want to write a book. I want to do this. Just start, man. Just open that Word document. Just go for it.
Yes. So have you heard of Dharma? Do you know what Dharma is?
Not very much. I know that word.
Okay. Well, I might butcher it, but I think it's the Law of Dharma. And the Law of Dharma literally states that every person on this planet was put here for a purpose. Like, we've all heard of that. Like, we're not here by accident, but they're literally like, that is the law, just like law of attraction, law of reciprocity. We are all here for a purpose. And sometimes, like, that helps me when I'm like, why? I don't want to say, why am I here? But sometimes I'm like, what is my purpose? What is this? Sometimes it's just good to know, it's like, you are here for a reason, to do something. It doesn't have to be this Bill Gates thing. You know, we don't have to be whoever. People are like, I don't like Bill Gates. That's fine. Think of whoever you want to think of. I lost my train of thought again. But sometimes I need to hear like facts like that, to say, you are here for a reason. You can do amazing things. I don't know why I just lost my train of thought, but I did. Oh, something else I wanted to say, because I was thinking when you were talking, it is so easy to like look at you and be like, he's written a book, he has all these followers, he is constantly every day literally trying to help people stay alive and be happy and live the like most out of their life. I could literally feed you 1,000 compliments and sincerely mean them right now. But why can't we do it to ourselves, and or we don't believe the other person?
Yeah. I mean, and to be completely vulnerable, in the last week, I felt suicidal. I'm safe. I'm fine. Nothing's wrong. But just in the last week, I have felt like a failure, like I'm not doing enough. that's just part of my journey and my story. But like you were saying earlier about social media, it is so easy to look at other people and think, look, they've got it, they've made it. And it's not real life.
Right.
It's not real life. And
Right.
it is so hard to be that cheerleader for ourselves. But it's possible, right? It's 100% possible.
Yeah. And I thank you for sharing that, because some people, life is like ebbs and flows, and my podcast is called The Bright Side of Life. I do wholeheartedly believe that it is a journey to it, but I do not believe that once you get there, that there's just going to be, in my case, all these sunflowers just always. That is not the way life works. You can't have good without the bad, light without the dark, so on and so forth. And so we might go into these times, but something that I appreciate with you, because there are people out there that do feel the same way as you and have been happy for this certain amount of time, and then all of a sudden the darkness comes again, and it's like, is this ever going to stop? And I'm sure you've asked yourself, am I ever going to be happy? When are these thoughts going to stop? I think it's important that people know that this can happen again. Thoughts can happen again. You literally say all the time, you have to fight. And I know you do fight to keep healthy with your mental health, because you are here for a purpose.
Yes. All of the yes, Melissa. Yes to everything that we're talking about today.
I don't even, I feel like I don't ever like ask you questions. I just make a statement and I'm like, oh, and comment back to that.
But like, I love your style of podcast, because it's so easy to have a conversation, and it just feels like friends over coffee, which is basically what this is. I just only have water.
I know, me too. I've already had my coffee. If I have any more, my heart's going to jump out of my freaking throat because anxiety. So much fun. Oh my God. But yeah, I just appreciate your vulnerability, and that's what I want people to know. I know you've talked about people, you've had criticism, whether it's friends, family, or just freaking social media haters being like, you preach this, but then you're struggling. Like, how is that possible? And it's like, have you ever lived life? Because it's not always freaking rainbows and butterflies, okay? And that's the biggest thing I want people to know is, I would hate for somebody to look at me and just see like, Melissa, oh, she's done so good. She's this, she's that, and she just doesn't struggle anymore. And then they feel totally detached from the whole freaking point of my podcast and my story. I want people to know that I still struggle to this day with things. And I've went in ebbs and flows. I've been on freaking cloud 9 where I literally thought I was invincible in terms of my mental health ever being like being my worst self-critic. No, now I have been struggling with this for 2 months, and I'm like, where the has this come from? We're just being real, people.
100%. 100%. And that's okay. And that's what we need. And that's okay. And this conversation is just so important. It's so important.
Yeah.
That self-compassion, being a work in progress, not expecting yourself or other people to be perfect. And this idea that the bright side of life, or recklessly alive, like, it's not this eternal state of pure happiness. It's not nirvana. I don't think that exists. It's the striving, For me, the recklessly alive life, it's not, oh, I've achieved it and I'm there forever. It's making choices to be more alive. Or in your case, with your brand, it's making choices to look at the bright side and trying to be more positive when you don't feel like it. And it's getting into that battle. It's not a place of arrival. It's a process that we're all working on and trying to just be who we are in that.
In that process. So very true. Okay. So we've talked about some habits. We've talked about self-talk. I know that this is personally such an important month for you, Suicide Prevention Month. Before we do your big reveal of something that you've been working on, what else do you want people to know about suicide or suicide prevention with your message? Yeah.
So I kind of struggle with Suicide Prevention Month, and other people have commented on things that I've posted about some of my struggles. Like, I guess it's good that we have a month that we highlight it and that people are more open. In some ways, it kind of feels like when companies change their logo for Pride and then July 1st, they change it back. And then, but they haven't actually taken action to help a certain community, or that's just an example. But
Sure.
I feel like suicide prevention is kind of like that. Like, it's become something that some people just pay lip service to without providing solutions.
Yeah.
And part of that is, I think in my experience, a lot of suicide prevention is run by people who've lost someone versus someone who's experienced it. So I think anything you can do, to highlight stories. I hope that's my hope, is we start spreading more and more stories of who felt this way, especially to our young people. Suicide is the second leading cause of death for young people ages 10 to 24. The Attorney General declared youth mental health a national emergency. Like, if you think about everything we've heard in the news, I think I've heard about youth mental health one time, and it's on the level of a national emergency. Wow. So it to me, and I feel this way about basically every issue. Our culture tends to just post about it on social media and think that we're doing something. And I would challenge all of us to take an action to get involved, whether that is volunteering for an organization, learning more. And maybe suicide prevention isn't what you feel like your calling is. Maybe it's sex trafficking. But instead of just posting an article, please, please, please get on an email list for an organization. Find a way to do something that's moving the needle, and not just talking about it. And the talking about it is important. It is so important. Please talk about it. That helps everyone. And please do something,
Yeah. That's why I feel comfortable with you, because you've been in this experience. You've been in this situation. You know what it's like. I have not experienced that. So as much as it's near and dear to my heart because of people that I know that I've lost and people that I know that have attempted, I almost feel like I'm not an expert, so I don't know what to say. Like you said, like, if sex trafficking is your thing, I'm like, I just want to bring on somebody. And yes, Sam, you are an expert because you have lived this experience. You continue to, fight every day and try to take care of your mental health. And I just think that's so important. But sometimes I'm like, what more can I do to understand, to learn, to make a difference than just saying, my thing I struggle with in terms of helping other people is saying, I just want you to know you're not alone. Okay, well, really, how much does that help somebody? Because I had a thought the other day of, well, I might not be alone in my house, like physically, but I'm alone with my thoughts, and that fucking sucks. Absolutely. Like, that's what people are struggling with. And then I don't want to say them out loud. And so I'm like, what more can I do to help people not feel alone? So I say all of this because we do need to open up the conversation in people like you to be like, what more solutions can there be than just posting a hotline or having a month without, and I think you're doing so good getting in the trenches and being like, I experienced this, and this, what we're doing now, was not helpful.
When something that you've already said in this podcast is what I hear over and over, the most important thing and helpful thing you can do for someone who's suicidal is listen without judgment, provide empathy, don't try to fix it. Just talk about, wow, I understand why you're struggling so much. Thank you so much for telling me that. And just listening. And me too, when I am at my lowest, one of the greatest gifts you can give is just sit with me.
Yeah.
Invite me to just watch a movie with you. Do one practical thing. And we don't always know when someone's suicidal. But a lot of this is just being a good friend. It's just being a good human and being there for other people, especially people who don't know how to ask for help. They don't know
Right.
how to open that conversation. So they analyzed, I don't know, like 30 million texts from the suicide text line. And the most important, or the thing that worked the best, was just an expression of care. So saying something like, hey, I know you've been going through a really tough breakup. Sometimes when people are in that space, they might have some scary thoughts, or they might have thoughts of dying. Have you felt that way at all? That is it. There's a little bit of a heart palpitation when you open up that conversation, but at the end of the day, talking about suicide doesn't make it any more likely that someone will attempt. So if we really want to change this conversation and really lower the suicide rate, it starts with just being aware of the people around us and our coworkers, our neighbors, being more inclusive of people, inviting them to our community, inviting them to a bonfire. You don't have to be everybody's best friend, but listening, helping, and just generally being there for people is that kind of action that I'm talking about. It's not starting a nonprofit. It's just supporting people. And I imagine grief would be a similar thing.
Yeah. It's all, I feel like, about asking people. Even this weekend we hung out with some friends, and she knows we hang out with them a lot, and she knows I've kind of been struggling with like self-worth issues and so on and so forth. And she just asked me, she's like, so how have you been doing? That right there opened up. She was very genuine and sincere. I don't feel like I know it wasn't just a like, how are you doing? I don't really care, but I'm just going to ask that. And that was able to open up the dialogue and the conversation. And that is so important. And if you notice or know that something has happened, for sure, like a breakup or whatever it is, reaching out and saying, how are you doing? And whatever it is, it's so important, because some people don't know how to ask for that help. And then if you throw them a lifeline, literally, and pay attention to them and say, oh my gosh, this person asked me how I was feeling, it could change. It could literally save a life.
And I would challenge, posting and telling people you're never alone, I'm always here for you, is totally an okay thing. Don't ever feel guilty about that. And then I would just challenge people listening, take it one small step further. Hey, I know your brain has had a lot on your mind. Would you like to go to a movie and get your mind off it? Or, providing those tangible, hey, is there any way I could pick up groceries for you? Or just those little offers that's one step farther, that takes one action away from them, right? It's like when we talk about being at our lowest and we don't have any motivation to do anything you can do to lower that barrier to be with that person. Hey, can I pick you up and take you to Target? And maybe no, I'm okay. Thank you so much. But just taking it one step further than I'm here for you, and showing that a little bit more than just saying it.
That is so true. There's somebody that I recently know that is really struggling with depression. And so last week they said something to me. They said, I'm really, really struggling with today. Will you say some prayers for me? And I'm like, yeah, I'll say a prayer for you. And then I'm like, but I'm going to come see you too. And I did. And I asked him, I said, is there anything you want to do while I'm there? Because just like you said, sometimes like offering ideas, because I'm very much like, I don't want to like maybe see people, I like shut down more. So maybe offering like them the option of like, hey, what do you want to do? What is something that might bring you joy? Or is my company enough? Like, does that make, and I do believe this person was just happy that I was there and to talk to them, but offering whatever, like, hey, either you offer options or give them the option. And I don't think that, oh, that was just the cure to depression, but it was another day that person didn't have to be by themselves, and they got some company and was able to talk, and so on and so forth.
And it might be that spark that just lifts them a little bit up. I mean, one other practical idea I did is I had a friend who, like that, was like, I just want to be by myself. And so I just texted them a $20 DoorDash gift card. And I was like, hey, make sure you're eating, here's for a meal whenever you need it. And I tend to do that for new parents and things like that. Right. And if you have the means to just do a simple, or maybe you drop it off, who knows? But one step further is what I hear constantly from people who struggle with suicidal thoughts is, I need you to show up a little bit. And,
right.
And we can that's all within reach for all of us, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for sharing that, because I feel like people do need tangible steps. Maybe they say, I want to help, but I don't know what to do. Like, I thought I was maybe just like, if I post something, maybe that's good enough. But maybe other people, they're like, no, I would totally help more. I'm just not sure what that looks like. Because, yeah, it can't, like, we don't know. Like, sometimes we're scared, I think mine is definitely like scared. Like, I want to be able to help so badly, but I don't know how. Please tell me how I can help you,
And sometimes it's just trying, right? It's just trying and error. You send that gift card and I don't know who wouldn't like that gift card, but maybe not. And then you're like, cool. I just, easy way for me to say, love you, I'm thinking about you.
Yeah, exactly.
And we try.
I love that. Yeah. Okay, Sam, you have a huge announcement. Something that has been, well, I'll let you say everything, but Sam is announcing something here that is coming out. And why don't you take it away, Sam? Tell us what's going on in your world.
So on Saturday, September 10th, which is National Suicide Prevention Day, funny that we're talking about this, but this is my tangible step. I spent the last 8 months creating a mental health journal and planner because so similar to you. So my book came out in January of 2021, the end of 2020, and I was crashing in my mental health. I was the lowest I'd been in a long time. I was a teacher. They shoved us back into the schools full time. I didn't feel safe. I was also, they had us teach online. It was the most stressful time of my whole life. The world shut down again. So my gym is shut down. I can't use the tools that I've had. Mm-hmm. And I was a mess. I mean, and it was one really good friend who stuck with me through it, who was doing some of these practical things to help me get through it. But in that, I developed these daily questions that helped me kind of by accident, by trial and error. I was trying to journal a little bit each day. And it was a series of 5 questions that helped me pull myself out of it. And so I wanted to create something to give that to other people. It might not work for you. It might not work for others. And then I started researching and thinking more broadly about, okay, what are all of the things that go into mental health? What are the things that contribute? And so I'm just going to make a journal with a few questions and lined pages turned into this massive 360-page, 10-week planner, journal, self-care, adventure, goals thing, which I am so proud of. And honestly, I'm so excited just to use myself. So if people are watching on video, this is the proofing copy that I am finishing.
Oh my gosh!
It matches the book. But
yes!
So the beginning starts with 3 big sections to plan your goals. So pick 3 big goals for 10 weeks. And it's got a planner and a calendar. It's got a ton of self-care ideas. Self-care is really important for mental health, and kind of the different types of self-care, and a spot to kind of like reflect and figure out, okay, what does work for me to care for myself and be my best self. And then it's got a spot to plan adventures. A big part of like what I'm talking about with the marathon or like traveling, like we want to do these things So it's got kind of those bucket list ideas and starting to think and open up our brains. I've always wanted to take a sign language class. My grandparents were deaf. I didn't know them very well. I've never done that. That's on my bucket list. And that's an easy thing that I could do to get me out of that rut, out of that thing. That's the whole first section. And then it's 10 weeks of, it's got an excerpt from the book. It's got a habit tracker. So like, as you and I are talking about, like, okay, I'm trying to drink water, and maybe you just have a couple habits, or I'm trying to walk every day. So you can track what you're doing each week. It's got those daily check-in questions that I was talking about, a spot to kind of keep some notes. And it's more, that's kind of the self-talk. That's where I reflect. It's got a schedule. So like we talked about, keeping a schedule, making that structure, planning the day, kind of reflecting on, these are my priorities, these are my goals, pulling them through your day. Then it's got what essentially is like a Post-it note. For those of you who don't know my Instagram, every other day I just post an inspirational message. So I've taken those and put them in here, and then a page to journal. So one full page to write about with a reflection question if you want to use it. So like this one is, what is one thing I'm looking forward to? And it's, again, they're all questions that are designed to pull your brain, get your brain, stop stressing out about the past, the future, everything. Just pull yourself into kind of better mental health. And then it has a weekly reflection, and then it starts over. And it's 10 weeks of that. I can't even tell you how many hours I have spent in Canva and design. And like, I've made a lot of mistakes the last 8 months trying to get this out. But so it's 344 pages. There's a color version and a black and white version that's coming out. The black and white version is a little more affordable for those where income is a constraint. And it comes out September 10th, National Suicide Prevention Day. So,
oh my gosh, that seriously looks so amazing. And you're like, you don't even know. There's so much. You should be so proud of yourself, Sam. You really seriously should.
Thank you. I'm almost there. I think maybe once it's fine, I still have work to do this week. Maybe when it's finally perfect and out, and I am really happy that I took action. I did something. I'm putting something else out, and maybe only 5 people will buy it. Maybe it'll get 100 negative reviews, and that's okay. I tried something. I'm working on something to help other people, and I think it's gonna be a game changer for some people.
I think it's going to be awesome. I think it's going to help people. So question, just working through this, is there a link that people I could put in the episode now, or do we need to wait? Because this episode is out today, September 6th, if you're listening to it. If not, we can.
The best option would be to follow me on social media at Recklessly Alive on Instagram, TikTok, or recklesslyalive.com. I have an email list, and I will communicate all of those links once they are out.
Perfect. So you guys heard that. Go follow Sam because his content is amazing. And I was about to say something. I'm not going to say it. Never mind. Just kidding. Okay. Follow Sam, though. I don't even know if I follow you on TikTok. I might. I'm not sure.
I don't get TikTok. I'm trying.
That's what I was about to say. I do, but I'm like, I've been on Instagram forever. Like, God. But seriously, your content is so good. And it's getting, I don't want to say it's getting better, but like, I love your little like things you put in there, like little emojis, or you'll always be like some side note, like, what's up with this hair, or like awkward high five. And it really does help with the videos to like break the brain up and being like, what just happened?
The video today that comes out this afternoon that I'm going to publish after this is like, who decided men need to wear short shorts again?
Oh,
trying to be that's me. I would say that to you in person. So I guess.
Exactly. Oh my gosh, that is so hilarious. What have we left anything else out that you want people to know? about you, about the work you're doing?
Of course, the best way to get to know me and my work is to read my book. Go back and listen to that first episode that Melissa and I recorded. The book is the story of my suicide attempt. My attempt happens in the middle, and then the second half of the book is everything that's kind of happened since. It has been in the top 200 best-selling books, even cracked the top 100. I think book number 67 in June. There was a day when it was the 67th best-selling book out of all of Amazon, which
Hell yeah.
still blows me away. I don't talk about it nearly enough. It's a short, quick read, but I'm really, really proud of. It's a story, it's a story. And if you have someone in your life or you yourself are struggling, overwhelmingly the reviews have said how people identify and appreciate the humor and the little nuggets that I worked, just a quick 7 years.
Oh man. Yeah. I have not read your book yet. I freaking have it. You sent it to me and I need to read it. I'm going to read it. I'm literally I'm going to Montana. Well, when you guys hear this episode, I'm going to Montana in 2 days. But for you, I'm going September 8th. I'm going to read it on the plane.
Thank you.
Yeah. I want to. I need to.
They read it in 1 or 2 days. It's short on purpose because especially if people are struggling, I want you to be able to get through it and get through the good stuff.
Exactly. Awesome. And you guys can also find that on his website and socials and all that fun stuff. Okay, so nothing has changed since you've been here last. I still ask all of my guests this, and just because you've been here one time doesn't mean I'm not going to ask you again, because we're going on almost 2 years since you've been on my last episode.
Crazy.
So Sam, in your own words, now what does the bright side of life mean to you?
And I wonder, I bet my answer is a little different this time. And what has been on my heart so much lately is how much I hate the word good vibes only. Like, we have started to see this everywhere in neon signs, and it leans into this toxic positivity that we need to be positive all of the time. And I worked for a boss who was like, you cannot share a problem unless you have a solution. And it was this culture of, you can't ever share how you really are experiencing this workplace. Everything has to be positive all the time, positive. And that's not real life. Like, I wish all of those signs said real vibes only, because when I read good vibes only, it says to me, don't come hang out with me if you're not in 100% a great place. If you're not happy, if you're not vibing, you're not welcome here. And that is the opposite of suicide prevention. That is encouraging people to isolate, to stay away. I don't want you around if you're going to bring that. Now, I'm not saying surround yourself with negative people. And people in my life, they get annoyed with me because I don't let them talk like that around me. I'm constantly encouraging them to try and be more positive, to use the yet and the but, as we talked about before, to help their self-talk. However, everyone in your life needs to know that when you are having months like Melissa is having, you're having a week like I'm having, you are 100% welcome. You don't have to change who you are to be around me. I see you struggling and trying to get on the bright side of life, and I'm going to help you. I'm going to welcome you with open arms as you try to hold on to that, and I'm not going to hold you to a standard where you need to be that 24/7, 365.
Oh my gosh, that's such a great point. See, you say stuff. I almost just threw out my shoulder, by the way. It just popped on me. But it's stuff to just like consider. Real vibes only. I love that. I love that so much.
Maybe that's a call book too.
Yeah, there you go. There you go. I wrote it down. I'll send it to you so you don't forget it.
Thank you.
All right, Sam. It was such a pleasure talking to you today, as always. You were awesome, and you should be so proud of yourself. And your freaking journal is going to do awesome. It's going to be so great.
Thank you so much. Thank you for just the incredible work you're doing. I am so proud of you and so proud of what you put out into the world, the authenticity. It's just pure joy to know you, Melissa.
You too. Thank you.